Hello everybody, it's Big Al with more content for Lord of the Rings Rise to War. On this video I am going to be talking about gear templates. And what I mean by that is, in general speaking terms, what kind of gear tanks need, physical damage dealers, focus damage dealers, supports. And the supports is going to be the most complicated one because there is so many different kinds of support commanders. So, I'm going to hop right into it, and let's talk about tanks first. Okay, and again, I am going to be speaking in general terms. So, as a tank, I'm going to use Frodo as an example. Falcon's another tank, Gil, those kind of commanders. So, the most important things for a tank commander is command and unit defense. And the reason the unit defense is important is because most likely you're going to run a taunt unit on them, or a protect unit like Swan Knights, Mountain Trolls, Great Beasts, or you're going to run melee units on your tank and ranged units on your others. So, you want command, which is this stat right here. And I always say it is important to click on the word so you understand what it does. Command is damage received by the commander's formation unit, okay, and the damage dealt by the commander's formation unit. So, that is important. Unit defense also helps against physical damage to those units. So, I'm going to start with purple gear to start, okay? The best gear, best in slot purple gear for a tank are the Cutlass, the Horseman's Helm, the Superior Hauberk, and the Drums of Moria. Okay? Because again, look, all of them you see up here at the top, right under Cutlass, it gives 130 command when it's fully maxed, and the unit defense is plus 15. So for purple gear, that is what's going to give you the most out of both. Move over to the helm. See, 70 command, 18 unit defense. Now on armor, no armor gives command. So that's always going to be hit points. But the Hauberk gives you the most unit defense. And then we go to the Drums of Moria. As you can see, it gives command and unit defense. There are other pieces that do give command, unit defense for these categories, but these are the best in slot for them. Now we're going to talk about gold gear. Okay. Now, gold gear, there is variations of gold gear. Okay, the Reckoning is the best for a tank because it gives the most command and the most unit defense. But there are things, because you're using gold, you get more stats and more command. You have leeway. So the Lang is another item, just for argument's sake, is another good one because as you can see, it gives 100 command at its base level and it still gives 9 unit defense. So it's still quite a bit of unit defense. So there is some variation of it. On the helm, the best in slot, and I'm not sure if I even have one, is the Cask of the Submerged Isle, which I will pull up in the Matham chest to show you what it is. Second best would be the Herod Cask. As you can see, it gives you unit defense and command. Now, for the armor, best in slot would be the High Elf Hauberk. Okay, as you can see, unit defense is plus 16. And for the accessory, you have the Silver Harp of Rivendell. As you can see, command and unit defense. So let me go ahead and show you this. Come on. The Cask of the Submerged Isle. I didn't mean to click on Sauron. Okay, right here. And that is the best in slot gold item for a tank. So, like I said, generally speaking, that's what you put on your tank. Now, let's talk about set effects for that. Now, for set effects, you have all the different kinds. But what you're looking for is, let me go in here so I can just get the list out, is you want a defensive set effect on your tank. And the defensive ones are set in blue color. You have Power Overwhelming, which gives you damage reduction when in a stun or madness state. You have Agility, just makes you faster. But you have Thick Armor, which is plus defense. You have Fortitude, which is minus a certain percentage of physical damage received. Evasion is minus X amount of total damage received. Divide and Conquer is damage received, but with Divide and Conquer, it lasts for the entire fight and it stacks. So round 1, you're minus 1% if you have a 2-piece set. On round 5, with the 2-piece set, you'd have minus 5%. So that is another good one. And then you have the Fortitude of. Like you have Fortitude of Men, Fortitude of Orcs, things like that. And that's when the commander's formation is comprised of that race specific. You hit minus 5% damage received for a 2% 2-piece set. So that's all damage, where regular Fortitude is just physical damage. So the three, I like Fortitude the best. That's my personal preference. But Fortitude is a good one. Evasive Action is a good one. Divide and Conquer is okay. Thick Armor is okay. So those are the set effects you're looking for on a tank. And again, for tanks, you have like Frodo, Falcon, Gil, Boromir. I've seen some people use Círdan as a tank. And there is some variations with the gear because like Círdan uses focus on some of his things. Isildur is another tank. People use Sauron as a tank. And all his stuff modifies off of focus. So there is other items that you can throw in there, like a Noldor sword, which gives you focus, unit defense, and command. The Call of the Forest gives you command, focus, and unit defense. So there is some variations depending on what kind of commander he is, besides doing tanking. Now I'm going to go to physical damage dealers. Physical damage dealers are the important pieces that you're looking for. I'm going to start with purple. Is commander damage and commander attack. So one thing with commander damage is that is only found on weapons and golden accessories. So for best in slot on purple, you can't get commander damage on the accessory, just on the weapon. So as you can see under the word battle axe, it has commander damage 5 to 7, and then it has the commander attack that you need. Here we go to the helm. Commander attack, and commander attack. And these are all items that give you the most commander attack out of the purple gear. Now, let's go to the gold gear. And there is so many variations. But for a physical damage dealer, the Axe of Khazad-dûm is the one that gives you the most commander damage and the most commander attack. So let's go ahead and put that on. Next, on the helmets, the one that gives you the most commander attack is the Cask of Pride. There is some debate. Some people like to put command helms on their commanders, on their physical damage dealers, but it does not help. If you have extra, an abundance of commander attack, and you can afford to lose some, yes, you can put on a command helm. Because again, let's look at this. Damage received by the commander's formation unit. And if you notice, it says unit, not formation, not the commander, the unit. So you can help decrease the damage that your unit is taking, you can increase the damage that your unit is dealing. I personally don't like that method. I'd rather do this. I'd rather put the Cask of Pride on it, and then here I like to run a defensive armor on my physical damage dealers because it's going to give you the most unit defense. The longer that your units stay alive, the less damage that your commander is taking throughout the rounds. Okay, that being said, sometimes that's not an option for people where they still need a armor that gives them commander attack. A lot of people will say the Berserker's Raiment is best in slot. It gives the commander attack, it gives some initiative, which is usually helpful because with the initiative you'll be able to act before your slower counterparts. And that, well, I guess I should put something on so you can see it. And then here, the best in slot for physical damage dealers is right here, the Palantir of Orthanc. It gives you the most commander attack and it gives you the most commander damage. Second would be the Drums of Barad-dûr. It still gives you a lot of commander attack and it still gives you commander damage. But as you can see from here, the drums give you 3 to 5 damage and the Orthanc gives you 5 or 5. So what that means is right here on this number, the damage. So that's how much damage he's inflicting, okay, with each hit. So 34 being the low end and 44 being the high end. It is kind of a random generator of how much damage you actually do between those two numbers. So again, with the Palantir, it gave me +5, +5. If I would have the drums on here, which gave me +3 to 5, that number would be 32 of 44. So there's the best in slot. And again, there's a little bit of debate on that, and that's for physical damage dealers. Now let's go to focus damage dealers, which is completely different. Commander attack does nothing for them, because if you look here, affects ability to inflict physical damage. That's not what we need. We need the focus. Okay? So, I've already got them up here. The Carver gives commander damage because, again, she's still a damage dealer, but then it gives me commander focus instead of commander attack. The Bone Mask is going to give you the second most. And then here you have kind of debatable. You have the Scout's Mail, but you also have a Hunter's skin. But I'm going to show you this one. This is the base value of a Scout's Mail. It gives you 3 focus, but it also gives you the initiative. And it gives 4 commander attack, so this is also an item that can be used for physical damage dealers. Now if we go to the Hunter skin, you see it gives you 5 commander focus at the base level. So that's going to give you the most. And then you have the Harp, which again is going to give you the most commander focus. So now let's talk about the set effects. Okay, I'm going to talk about the focus damage dealers first because that's what we have on. So with damage dealers, you can use both defensive or offensive, where on the tanks you only want the defensive set effects if that's what you can do, and you only make set effects if you're using the right item for the commander. So first off, you have the Sharp Blade, which affects the commander and the unit's attack. Well, that doesn't help a focused damage dealer. Okay, damage ignores 8% on a 2-piece set for flay of the target's defense. Well, defense helps resist against physical damage, so that doesn't help. Might, same thing, physical damage dealt. We don't need that. So for a focus-based damage dealer, you have Lord of the Arcane. burn, poison, and focus damage dealt plus 5% for a 2-piece set. Okay. Then you also have Warcry. This formation's damage dealt for the first 3 rounds is plus 10%. Okay. Also Perseverance. Damage dealt plus 1%. And just like Divide and Conquer, Perseverance stacks. So on round 5 with the 2-piece set, you'd be getting plus 5% damage. So, and then you have the defensive set effects. You have Divide and Conquer, Evasive Action, Fortitude, Thick Armor, Agility, Power Overwhelming. There is an argument on Colladriel for this upkeep, recovery administered plus 3% for a 2-piece set. I'm going to be honest with you, upkeep is probably the worst set effect because that 3% isn't going to do anything. So you're getting 3 hit points back from, say, 100 hit points. So as you can see, that really doesn't do anything. Okay, oh, let me go back in there. Because of the physical damage dealers. So again, you can use offensive or defensive. So as I was talking about with the Sharp Blade, the attack, which is what physical damage dealers use, they can use that. Same thing with Flay and Might. But the physical damage dealer, Lord of Arcane, will do no good for them because they're not dealing the burn, poison, or focus damage. So we've talked about tanks, we've talked about physical damage dealers, we've talked about focus damage dealers. Next, I am going to talk about Gandalfs. Yes, I said Gandalfs, because to me they have their own category. And the reason being is because White Council. So this changes with Gandalf the White when he gets higher respect levels. Because once he gets higher respect levels, he will have points to put into his damage skills. But at lower levels, I have Gandalf the White and Gandalf the Gray the same. And just like the focus damage dealer, they want as much focus as possible. But they don't need the commander damage the way that the damage dealer does. So there's a couple things that you can do. And if you want to get the most focus, you're going to use the Carver. But one thing I also like to do, if you can do it without sacrificing too much focus, is I will throw on a piece that also gives command as well. Because remember, command's going to help the unit to take less damage and also deal more damage. So that is one thing I like to do, is throw on command when I can. I'm going to go there because I don't think I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any purple gear. Oh, there's the Trapper's Hood. And I don't have any because I use them to strengthen. That gives command and very little focus. Okay, we're going to go back here. We're going to go to the Hunter Skin. And then we are going to go to the Harp. Gives you the most. And then there's also the Firework. And these stats are the same as the Trapper's Hood. You'd only get 2 focus, 6 unit attack, compared to 6 focus and 2 attack by the best in slot there. And it just occurred to me that I forgot to do the focus damage dealer's gold gear. So I will do that in a second after this one. I apologize for those that were really into that one. So both Gandalfs, I will run something like this. And for his set effects, you're going to want to run defense because Gandalf the Gray and Gandalf the White are not going to do much damage. Except when Gandalf the White gets higher respect levels to where they're having 10 or more skill points in those damage skill trees, then you can think about putting a Lord of Arcane on Gandalf the White. But generally speaking, on the Gandalfs, you want the defensive skill. So now here we go into the gold gear for the Gandalfs. The Noldor sword gives command and focus, and it's a high focus as well. Next, this is an item that I think is one of the best items overall in the game, and that is the Call of the Forest. I absolutely love this piece for for focus damage dealers. I love it for the Gandalfs, kind of their own category that I call. And I also like it for support commanders that are focus based. Because you get command, you get focus, you get unit defense, you also get initiative, which does help. Okay, next you have Protection of Numenor. That is the best in slot gold gear for focus based commanders. You also have this great plate at the east, and I bring that up for the one reason of the Protection of Numenor has an evil aura around it. And what that means is elves cannot wear it. So, Galadriel, Arwen cannot use it. And then, last but not least, is the accessory. The best in slot is the Fine Smoking Pipe because it gives the most commander focus. And now we are in the Gandalf category. So, he does not need the commander damage, but it gives the most commander focus. And you want your focus as high as possible on the Gandalfs for your White Council. So, and the other reason is, I did sacrifice a little bit of focus when I put the Call of the Forest on instead of just a straight focus piece. So, and also the Noldor sword. You can get a couple extra commander focus if you were to use one of the weapons, but the command's going to help the Gandalfs better. So I will still put this Fine Smoking Pipe just because it gives the highest amount of commander focus. Okay, now let's go back to Colladriel, and I'm backtracking, and she is the focus damage dealer. So let's see, do I even have the best in slots? Yes, I do. The Obsidian Dagger is the best in slot weapon, gold weapon for a focus damage dealer. It gives you hands down the most focused. It also gives you a little bit of initiative, and you see the commander damage is 10 of 10. I mean, look at the Carver that is fully upgraded, gives you only 12 of 12. So, right there, the Obsidian Dagger is amazing. A couple others to point out that I like for focus damage dealers is this Blazing Tongue. It is not the best. It's not the worst. It's probably, I want to say, the third best weapon for a focus damage dealer, and probably like the fourth best weapon for a physical damage dealer. Because as you can see, it gives both commander attack and commander focus. I like the Blazing Tongues to use as, say, your second best damage dealer. And the reason for that is because it's versatile. You can use it on physical or focused damage dealers. You can get one every season at the season shop at the end of the season, as long as you acquire enough points. So you can refine it. So there's that. Let me put the Obsidian Dagger on here. Now, I had already said this. I think the Call is the absolute best for any focus-based commander. That being said, a lot of people will say that the Gray Hat is the best in slot for a focus damage dealer because it gives the most focus. And you kind of have to agree with that for that reasoning. But again, it's a personal preference. I like the Call. I will sacrifice a few focus points to get that command, that unit defense, and the initiative. Now, same thing. Here we have the armor. Remember me talking about that evil aura on the Protection of Numenor? That is first for focus-based damage dealers that aren't elves. So for her, it would be the Great Plate of the East. And then here you have a couple different. You have the fine smoking pipe is the best, gives you the most focus, gives you the most commander damage. There was another one for other focus damage dealers, not elves. The Signet of the Burrows gives you 14 focus, also gives you initiative, and it gives you 3 to 5. Okay, but the pipe is the best overall. So okay, so tanks, physical damage dealers, focus damage dealers, the Gandalfs I've talked about. I am going to do a separate video on the supports. And the reason for it, because there is so many different kind of support commanders. So each of them need a kind of slightly different gear template. So there's the templates for the tank, the damage dealers, the Gandalfs. So I will leave it at that. And just because you don't have best in slot doesn't mean that you have crap gear. You just don't have that piece. So make the most out of what you got. Use something that still gives you the commander focus. It may not be the most, but use something that gives commander focus on your focus-based damage dealers. So, as always, like I just said, make the most out of what you got.